We found a giant abandoned shopping center that our production designer, Howard Cummings, converted into the strip.
Hey, Aaron. Hey, Geneva. The reception of the first season has been so overwhelmingly positive, in my opinion. Does it actually make it easier for you as a showrunner to say, well, we've hit the tone of the show, I guess, so we can now flex our muscles in the upcoming seasons? Or does it actually make it harder because there's, of course, some anticipation by the fans? Yeah.
It's a complicated question. We are glad that for the most part, it seemed like people felt like we had gotten the tone faithfully adapted from the games to the show in season 1. We have done our very best to continue that in season 2. But we are going to New Vegas, which is a place that, of course, gamers all know extremely well. They know what it looks like to stand on the strip. They know what it looks like to stand in Freeside. We have tried as much as we could to bring that to the screen. And our incredible production designer, Howard Cummings, really rose to the occasion. I'd say there's actually a really interesting trade-off as a showrunner on this particular show, where Jonah Nolan, who's my showrunning mentor, he really insisted that we always do things practically, wherever we possibly can. We build something for real. We put our actors in front of Gamora or in front of the Atomic Wrangler. Like, we put them in the actual environments that we know from the games, rather than having them stand in front of a blue screen and just try to imagine themselves there. And that was something that he initiated season 1. And I thought the effect when I, saw the dailies was just extraordinary, that it's so tactile, and to see it feel, the game feels like it's literally brought to life. The challenge with that is sometimes a set that you're working on, like the Las Vegas Strip, is so enormous that, could we actually afford to build multiple city blocks? No. What we did was we found a giant abandoned shopping center that our masterful, ingenious production designer, Howard Cummings, converted into the strip with as many iconic locations from the game as we could possibly fit in. And that is how we actually built the strip. But of course, again, there was this really interesting trade-off that I hope people can sort of understand was difficult to make, of had we relied exclusively on computer generated imagery, maybe we could have made it look pixel for pixel by like the game. But when we are building something for real, occasionally there has to be this trade-offs, that there will be some differences in order to be able to physically build it with the locations available to us as a show, and that we just try as much as possible to be true to the game. But that there are these trade-offs, and I think it's one worth making personally, because I absolutely just was astonished season 1 seeing our actors in sort of in a physical wasteland that have been brought to life. But that is the dilemma, and I think it's a really interesting one that you brought up.
Yeah, I mean, before I ask you, Aaron, another question, I just want to quickly add up. I mean, because you have already confirmed that a season 3 is going to happen, do you have an outline for the show already in your head, or do you tackle it season by season? Yeah.
It's honestly a little bit of both. We have an overall idea of where these character arcs are going, and we have discussed it with Todd. So we know what we're ultimately building towards, but we also always want to be flexible. Say when a new actor comes in who we imagine maybe was just going to be in a couple of scenes, but oh my God, they're extraordinary. Let's weave them into our storyline and more, and have them have deeper relationships with our leads. We always want to be flexible, and yet also have a plan. So again, it's an interesting interplay.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron, with Maximus, sort of the season finale, the season 1 finale, of course, was such a turning point, I would say, for that character and his journey throughout season 1. So can you talk about sort of what that means for him in season 2, and also if playing the character felt differently because of that for you?
Oh, no, I will start with that last one. It didn't necessarily feel different. Well, partially for me is what really helped me get into the character in the first season was having to have conversations with Graham and Geneva about what is Maximus's backstory. I had to hear the story, and it felt like a really wonderful secret that we always had in our first season. And moving into number 2, it's that thing where I guess I just had placed a marker with this chance meeting with the character of Lucy in my mind, where I thought, like, there's got to be something about Lucy that reminds Maximus of this thing that he's in conversation with in his head. And it's such an intelligent character that they've put together, because he is playing everything so close to the chest, growing up in an environment where people are horrible to one another, and he's been abused and beaten and abandoned by you know what I mean? It's a person who can be so, it's so easy for him to mistrust people. So yeah, it felt like the same character. It did feel like he's just hitting this sort of moment in his life, I think, where he's having a realization about, like, you are not the worst choice that you've ever made in your life, type of thing. You aren't defined by those sorts of things. I don't want to say he's growing up, but I do believe that maybe someone like Maximus or Lucy, they do sort of have to grow up quickly in the wasteland, especially through experience, getting outside of the brotherhood and that sort of discipline, just to be returning to it. But with new tools for survival and new ideas about the world that he's lived in. It's like the weird thing about colleges and how they can be cloistered in on themselves. And do they really prepare you for the real world? You know what I mean? Because you're just in a classroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's certainly a development. I love that Graham and Geneva make it non-linear. It feels very human to me. And I am excited for fans and viewers to really get to see where this takes him.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but I'm really excited to see more of season 2, and hopefully we see you again